Welcome to our channel, all friends. If you are new to my channel, please subscribe my channel and press the bell icon to stay update for new videos. Thanks. Let's start new video. When a young daughter-in-law enters a house where an elderly father-in-law resides, she needs to be mindful of her boundaries, keeping her thoughts and character pure. However, girls nowadays often fail to understand this. Overwhelmed by their strong emotions, they end up doing things that shake the very foundations of the home. Today's story is similar, where my young sister-in-law did something that even shames me to speak of. In the darkness of the night, using her youth, she committed an extremely shameful act with her elderly father-in-law. Please listen to this story till the very end. When my brother-in-law got married, I clearly told my husband that now they should ask his younger brother and sister-in-law to take responsibility for my father-in-law. How long could I keep bearing this responsibility? I wanted to live a peaceful life now. I was the elder sister-in-law, and I had served my father-in-law for many years. Now I wanted this responsibility to fall to my sister-in-law. My husband was initially very angry with me about this, but then he also felt that I genuinely needed a break. I had 3 children, and a lot of household chores fell to me. In such a situation, I couldn't tolerate my father-in-law's whims. After much persuasion from me, my husband talked to father and asked to take the upper portion of the house. Father didn't object. In fact, my sister-in-law was very happy and said, "This is great, sister-in-law. You've served father for many years. Now I should get this opportunity." I was expecting my sister-in-law to be very angry and start a fight, trying to prevent me from shifting to the upper portion. How did she agree so easily? My husband later told me, "Look, Roshni is such a good girl. She herself offered to take responsibility for father. And then there's you who got rid of father." Hearing my husband's words, I was angry because I had fallen from my husband's good graces, become bad in father's eyes, and my sister-in-law had made her place. But I truly needed peace now because taking care of father's likes and dislikes, getting up and sitting down according to his will, and cooking according to his preferences had become very difficult for me. There was also a kitchen in the upper portion. My husband had that kitchen set up for me, and so my brother-in-law and sister-in-law started living downstairs with my father-in-law, and I started my separate household upstairs. But what was surprising was that 2 days had passed since I shifted, but there was no sound from downstairs. And this surprised me greatly because my father-in-law had a habit of yelling a lot. He would find faults in my smallest things and mo, "Daughter-in-law, you never do anything properly. You can't even make a cup of tea right." For 2 days, I waited for my sister-in-law to get scolded, but nothing of the sort happened. I couldn't help but wonder. As far as I knew, father, he never ate a meal without finding fault with it. How was it possible that he hadn't yet criticized any of Roshni's cooking? In the evening, I made tea and went downstairs myself. Father was sitting in the open courtyard, and my sister-in-law was also sitting there, sorting rice. I had made tea for both of them, too. I placed the teacups and sat down next to my sister-in-law. She said, "Sister-in-law, since you're here now, please stay for dinner." She said it with so much affection that I was astonished. I was expecting her to make a face and say, "You just got rid of your responsibilities and went upstairs, leaving everything to me." But there was nothing of the sort. I was very impressed by her politeness. I said, "Roshni, there's no need. I've already made dinner. I just brought tea for father and you." My father-in-law drank the tea and with the very next sip glared at me angrily and as always shouted, "Fatima, when will you learn to do household chores? You can't even make a proper cup of tea." His words embarrassed me in front of my sister-in-law. Father spoke to me in a loud voice, just as he always did, whereas he hadn't said anything like that to Roshni in the past 2 days. Then father got up and left the house, so I looked at Roshni with embarrassment. She put her hand on my shoulder and said, "Sister-in-law, at this age, elders often get angry. Likes and dislikes also change. Don't worry, it's fine. You made very delicious tea." She took a sip of tea and started praising me. I quietly said, "Roshni, you have no idea how ill-tempered father is. He doesn't like anything, nor can he praise anything. You're new now. Perhaps that's why father isn't saying anything to you. Once you get a little old, you'll know yourself how he finds fault in everything." I had criticized father in anger so that Roshni would be upset with him, but nothing of the sort happened. She smiled and said, My father is also of the same age, sister-in-law. That's why I'm used to it. Even if father gets angry, it's okay. He loves us too. Saying this, she got busy with her work again, and I, with a sad face, picked up the tea tray and went back upstairs. I couldn't understand what magic Roshni had cast on father that he couldn't see any fault in her. Whereas I had worked so hard for father for so many years and served him a lot, but still couldn't make a place in his heart. Then 2 more days passed and there was no sound from downstairs again. So I held my husband, Kamran's hand and said, Kamran, tell me the truth. Did your father have any personal enmity with me? Kamran said, no, there's no such thing. Father brought you as his choice. Why would he have enmity with you? I angrily told Kamran, father used to yell at me so much he was angry with me all the time, but he doesn't say anything to Roshni. Hearing my words, Kamran laughed loudly and said, okay, so you're saying you're jealous of Roshni. She cooks very well. Her hands have great taste, and to be honest, eating her cooked food, I also felt like I was eating mother's cooked food. Perhaps that's why father doesn't find any fault in her cooked food, and then she's not irritable like you. The way you used to put food in front of father, he was bound to get angry after that. Kamran listed my flaws while laughing, and my anger soared even higher. As always, I started working in the kitchen, banging things around. Kamran tolerated it for a while, then came into the kitchen and said, this is how you work. That's why father scolds you. Now look at Roshni. In all these days, have you ever heard Roshni's voice from downstairs? Have you ever heard her shout at anyone? She never misbehaved with Haroon, never threw dishes, never yelled or screamed. That's why she made her place, whereas you've been causing a commotion from the very first day. Saying this, Kamran left the house, but he filled my heart with hatred for Roshni. I was extremely angry that this girl who came yesterday had made her place so quickly, while I was still bad in everyone's eyes, probably because I got angry quickly. I picked up a pot and threw it against the wall. At the loud sound, Roshni ran upstairs. Sister-in-law, is everything all right? She was looking at me with worry. I looked at her angrily and said, yes, everything is fine. Only I am bad. Everyone else is very good. Saying this, I turned towards the room without saying anything, and she stood there with a worried face. Then my elder daughter told her, it's Mama's habit. Whenever she fights with Papa, she throws dishes. Don't worry, Chachi. Everything is fine. My elder daughter is 13 years old and quite sensible. She herself explained and sent her aunt back, but after that, I started keeping an eye on Roshni. I wanted to know what magic she had cast that father had become infatuated with her. And not only that, Kamran also started praising her. Whenever he came from downstairs, he would be seen praising Roshni's tidiness and service. I was watching her cooking methods, her sitting and standing very carefully, and I truly realized that she cooked with great dedication, was always ready, her hair was open, lipstick on her lips, a smile on her face. Despite doing all the household chores, I never saw signs of fatigue on her face. And most importantly, she would constantly hover around father. Father, can I get you water? Father, can I make you tea? Father, what would you like to eat? Such phrases often fell into my ears, and I would look at her in surprise. It seemed as if Kamran and Haroon's father was her own father. I had never maintained such a friendly relationship with my father-in-law, but seeing her, it occurred to me that perhaps I should have done all this too. She looked like father's daughter, not his daughter-in-law, and this fact made me angry as well as surprised. But then I would shake my head and climb the stairs. I wanted to be happy in my own household now, but then I started to feel something strange. My sister-in-law, Roshni, preferred her father-in-law over her husband. I had seen that even when Haroon was home, she was often in father's room, hovering around father, taking care of father. A couple of times I saw Haroon getting annoyed with her about this, but my sister-in-law still didn't stop hovering around father. Instead, she would explain to Haroon that your father needs my service. If I leave him alone, he might fall ill. Hearing her words, it seemed to me as if she had come from another world. Otherwise, where do girls nowadays think so much about their in-laws? As soon as father entered the house, she would start serving him. My husband over time became even more infatuated with her, and in fact, everyone in the family started singing the Roshni's praises, and for this reason, she had completely fallen out of my heart. She seemed like a sorceress to me who had everyone under her control, and then gradually everything started to seem very strange to me. Roshni's behavior, her appearance, her sitting and standing. It seemed as if what appeared was not what it was. She had become much closer to Father than to Haroon. Father also kept calling out Roshni, Roshni all the time. As soon as he returned from the shop, he would call out to Roshni and Roshni would run to him. Even at this age, Father had not left his shop yet because he was quite healthy, took great care of his eating and drinking, and if there was even a slight irregularity, he would create a fuss. In fact, the business belonged to my father-in-law, and Kamran, Harwin, and Haroon both together were managing his business. My father-in-law had many clothing shops. Until Haroon got married, Kamran was handling almost everything. But after the marriage, Father had increased Haroon's responsibilities so that Kamran's burden would be somewhat reduced and Haroon would also learn some work. All the work of this city was Kamran's responsibility, but Haroon also got shops in another city. That's why he often left for another city early in the morning and returned late at night. But Father used to come back in the evening, and as soon as Father entered the house, my sister-in-law would get beautifully dressed up and bring a cup of tea for him to his room. And then the room door would remain closed for several hours. And this bothered me a lot. What was the need for her to close Father's room door? Father had a great habit of drinking tea. It wasn't her bringing tea that seemed strange to me, but her dressing up. The closed room door surprised and worried me a lot. Days were slowly passing. Her marriage was also about to complete 2 months. Until now, her behavior was beyond my understanding. Either she was truly very service-oriented, or there was something else. When I told Kamran this, he got angry and said, "How can you doubt that poor Roshni's service? She's so good. She takes so much care of Haroon, whereas you never took care of Haroon at all. I used to worry a lot about him. Thank God a woman like Roshni came into his life." Hearing Kamran's words, my anger increased. It felt as if I had no respect left in Kamran's eyes either. Then I told my elder daughter, Gudia, "Gudia, from today onwards, keep an eye on your aunt." Hearing my words, 13-year-old Gudia looked at me strangely and said, "Mother, what problem do you have with Chachi? Chachi is perfectly fine. When I go downstairs, she takes great care of me too. She gives me things and cooks my favorite food. You never cooked my favorite food. You always make a fuss after doing a little work, saying you're tired, you have a lot of work, and Chachi, look, she does all the work alone, but never makes a fuss." When my daughter also praised Chachi, it felt as if all my lifelong efforts had gone to waste. This girl who came yesterday had completely taken my place. Now my jealousy for her increased even more. I started keeping an even stricter eye on her, and then my brother-in-law told me that he was going to another city for a week for work. Hearing this, I thought that Roshni might go to her parents' house because whenever Kamran went somewhere for work, I used to go to my parents' house. I felt relieved in my heart, thinking, well, at least I'll get rid of this Roshni for a few days. Otherwise, everyone in this house was eating my ears by calling out, "Roshni, Roshni." But I was surprised to hear that Roshni had refused to go to her parents' house. Kamran and I were sitting with Father when Haroon told her that he was going for a week and would drop her off at her mother's place. But Roshni said, "No, Father will be alone. I'm not leaving Father. Besides, I don't feel like being anywhere else now. This is my home, and I'm happy here." Hearing her words, Haroon didn't say anything further, but Kamran glared at me because Kamran and I had had quite a few arguments about this. Whenever Kamran talked about going somewhere, I would make a fuss about dropping me off at my mother's place. Even if he refused, I wouldn't listen. And here, Roshni herself wasn't ready to go. I got so angry that I came upstairs without saying anything, but I couldn't understand at all why she hadn't said yes to going to her parents' house. If someone asked me, I would immediately pick up my luggage and leave. And then that same night, Haroon left for the other city. Kamran had gone to bed. My children were also asleep, but I couldn't sleep. I just came to the stairs to get some fresh air when I saw Roshni, who was fully dressed, in tight clothes with her hair open, looking stunning in the middle of the night. She was young, but in that dress, she looked even more beautiful. I wondered in surprise, Haroon isn't home, so who is Roshni dressed up for? And then I saw a scene that my eyes couldn't believe, because Roshni went straight into Father's room and as soon as she went inside, she closed the room door. Father was always in the habit of sleeping with his room door open, but Roshni had locked the door as soon as she went inside. And this bothered me. I quickly tiptoed down the stairs and went towards Father's room window. Perhaps Roshni didn't realize that anyone could be secretly watching her so late at night, so she was completely relaxed. I stood glued to the window, holding my breath, watching what would happen inside, and then every scene pulled the ground from under my feet. My sister-in-law quietly and cunningly opened Father's cupboard. She took out a lot of papers from it, and then, picking out some papers, she started putting Father's thumbprint on those papers one by one. And in a few moments, I understood everything. I quickly ran upstairs, woke Kamran, told him everything, and brought him with me to Father's room. When Kamran banged on the door loudly, Roshni had to open the door, and at the same time Father also woke up, and thus Roshni's truth came out in front of all of us. Roshni had cunningly transferred all of Father's property to Haroon's name. She thought that she would quietly get the thumbprints and no one would know, but I had seen it, and the matter was exposed. Father couldn't believe that Roshni could do such a thing, but she was caught red-handed, and then gradually her truth was completely revealed. She was giving Father intoxicating medicines in his food, due to which Father started sleeping deeply. Because of this intoxication, his yelling and screaming were ending. Whenever Roshni saw that Father's mood was about to turn bad, she would mix the intoxicating medicine in his tea and give it to him, and he would quietly sit in a corner. Roshni wanted to transfer everything to Haroon's name so that she could then kick us out of the house and live a life of luxury herself. She didn't love Father, she loved Father's property. After knowing the whole truth, Father immediately called Haroon, and then Roshni was thrown out of the house. Haroon himself was very embarrassed after knowing her truth. Haroon had no knowledge about all this. Roshni had thought that she would slowly give medicines and kill Father, and then tell everyone that Father had happily transferred everything to her and Haroon's name because of her service. She had come to this house with a very elaborate plan, but thank God her plan was exposed, and she was removed from this house forever. I apologized to Father for my behavior, because in all this time I had also realized that my behavior with Father was not good. He was old. That's why he had become a little irritable and ill-tempered. I should have understood this. Whatever Roshni was like, she never spoke ill of Father, and that was why she managed to make a place in the hearts of Father and Kamran, along with Haroon. Father forgave me and also apologized to me. So, he also realized that he used to find too many flaws in my work. Then Roshni's behavior also hurt him a lot. I shifted back to the lower portion. Today, I take full care of Father and Haroon. I never coveted wealth. I just wanted respect. And now my father-in-law respects me a lot. After some time, my father-in-law himself divided half of the shops between his two sons. At that time, I felt very sorry for Roshni. If she had been a little patient, her husband would have gotten his share. But she tried to usurp everything. And the result was that she lost her home and was deprived of her husband's love. Haroon did not divorce her, but never looked back at her. Maybe Haroon will forgive her today or tomorrow, but will she ever be able to regain her previous place? If only she hadn't been deceitful, she would still be ruling everyone's hearts today. Deceit in relationships not only weakens the foundation of relationships, but also hollows out the wall of trust. That's why never try to use relationships with bad intentions. Today, Father, Kamran, and I are living a very good life together. Haroon has become quite quiet. Perhaps he feels Roshni's absence. Many times I myself told him to forgive Roshni, but he is not willing to do so.